You guys can you come in. You can come in around here, either on either side of this camera, just kind of in line with it. So today is how to hit solid, crisp, solid iron shots, right? So it's a big sell. It's a big ask to try to hit both crisp and solid and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that's the case. Um, I know I'm a great student, or I know I'm a great teacher. I don't know if you're great students yet, so there is that part. I saw that one time on a shingle over a Golf Pros Pro Shop. He's like, it is a well-known fact that I'm a great teacher. What is not well known yet is if you are a great student. I think that's great. It's great. So if we're working on hitting crisp and solid, I wanted to just kind of discuss a couple things. Usually when I do a clinic, talk a little bit about what I want you to do, but then also dispel some myths as to what other people have said or things you've heard. So, for example, um, if crisp and solid was what we're going for, we could also use the word compression in there, right? So you guys have heard compression. So compression, as it's disseminated to the masses, typically involves some type of forward shaft length, right? You guys are nodding your head. You've heard that before, right? So compression is not at all forward shaft length. Compression is literally compression, right? So if I took, you guys might have seen on videos, or they're going to do a compression test of a ball. What do? They stick it in a clamp and they take a machine and they squish it to test the compression of the ball, right? Think of anything like if you took a tennis ball, hit it with a tennis racket, or even just squeezed it with your fingers, you are compressing the ball, right? So if a golf ball gets struck solidly and it gets hit in the middle of the face, the back of the ball, as you would imagine, or the side, this back would compress against that one. There's no rule that there has to be a downward attack angle to compress anything. The line of compression, so if I had this word practice right here, if I was playing pool on the pool table and I took my pool cue and I hit it perfectly level to the middle of the ball and I went through the middle, I would essentially be compressing a cue ball, right? If I go down on that cue ball to put some spin on it, I'm now not compressing it through the middle of the ball. I'm going across the middle of the ball. Okay? So if I take a golf club and I bounce it up and down, as long as I can get the club going basically through the middle of the ball, I get that nice sound. There's a compression that's going on when it's going through there. So you're welcome. That's my first trick shot. Um, so exactly. Yes. Yeah. Left hand. You can do it this way. You can just walk around on the back of your club. It's like a spoon race, right? Um, so what we have to do is we have to get that line of energy going through the ball. Okay. So if I've got these tees set up here, um, you would assume that the compression line would actually be like somewhat. Grab that.
Sorry.
We'll work on your reflexes. I'll edit that part out. Yeah, or put a hand on it. You can yeah, go like stick a club through there. There we go. Perfect. Nice. um knew that was coming. Um so you would assume if I had these teeth set up here that maybe I was going to demonstrate like hitting down, on the tee, because when you see a good strike, you'll see that the tee kind of gets broken and knocked forward, right? What we're actually going to do is we're going to tee up about this height our iron shots, okay? So, this high, okay? Why do you think we would do that? Yeah, so you can somehow figure out how to get the line of compression through the back of the ball, not glancing. So we don't want that energy going down and across the ball, nor do we want it coming up, but more than likely we're going to get some downs. And if we get that downward action and the face opens, then it's definitely not going to be compressed. It's going to be weak and swiped, right? So What we have to somehow figure out how to do is get the energy going level to the middle of the ball, regardless of loft. So this is a 9 iron. So a 9 iron is simply going to compress it at a 45-degree angle this way. 5 iron is going to compress it lower. I'm not going to have to do anything. I don't have to hit down on it. So what usually happens when we talk about this is everybody's kind of been of the belief that I have to get a forward shaft lean in order to get better compression, right? So what does that promote? Well, a forward shaft lean and trying to get to forward typically promotes kind of sliding, getting ahead, leaning. So what would that look like in the pool cue example? Now I'm just tipping this up and up and up, but now I'm like going down and across it even more. Now, if I somehow got this 9 iron all the way to 0 and or even negative and I hit down, maybe I would actually get compression, but what would happen is I'd drive the ball into the ground and it would like bounce out of the ground. So we got to make sure that we're not trying to deliver the club. It's not a sharper angle of attack. It's just a better collision with the face, right? So when you tee it up this high, your goal is to hover, and then when you hit, just try to go level through there, right? So when I was a young pro or a young amateur growing up in Australia, I would learn all kinds of crazy tricks, and that's kind of where the trick shot show came from. But when I was in Yuma, Arizona, as a 23, 24-year-old pro, I learned that I could gamble with the older guys and win their money because I could reach a par 4 green at around 400 yards with two lob wedges. And they were like, no way. I'll bet you 50, I'll bet you 100, I'll bet any amount you want that you can't do that. Well, the way I was able to get there was to basically blade it. So I'll try blading a lob wedge right in the middle of the ball and see how far it goes. Right? So where was my compression line if I do that? Above the middle, right? So that, by the way, was my first swing of the day. All right, so I'm going to try to go through the middle of the ball now. All right, so that was still below middle, but for a lob wedge, that might have gone 150 yards. So if I can connect right here and swing a little harder than I am now, if I can get the middle of that blade going through the middle of the ball, that would be ultimate compression, and I can hit the lob wedge over 200 yards doing that, so I could reach a par 4 green in 2 strokes. So if I'm able to control basically the yeah, exactly. Yep, yep. And so what I'm controlling, and you'll hear this a lot in conversations on TV about, low point control or like all of that. So what we have to do is we have to accelerate the club in and through the downswing, lagging the club, hitting down on it sharpens that angle, which is a much greater convergence of those two things. If I'm trying to go straight through the back of the ball, but I'm hitting down on it like this, that's the pool cue example. It's just not going to hit very well, right? So in order to do that, just like we did in the driver clinic, what you're actually going to learn to do is release the energy over here way sooner, because now you've heard of shallowing, right? So instead of taking the club and like laying it off back here and trying to shallow the attack angle, if this club head going down to these tees was steep, that's a lot of lag. If I toss this club head over here and continue the swing, it's going to return shallow, right? So if you think about a circle going around, how the club comes into the ball, if I keep my arm pretty stiff, is going to be actually very shallow as it's coming in, which gives me a much greater chance of solid compression this way. If I go like this and I hinge my wrist, and as I come down, I like come straight and then pop with my wrist, I'm very steep. Most of the time, as our bodies, especially as we get older, they get stiffer and tireder. When you come down steep, your body turns left. When you turn left, you chop across it. Now you've got this sharp angle of attack with a cut spin, and it's not going anywhere. So if we do basically all of that opposite, if we turn and throw the club back here sooner, what's actually going to happen is that club's going to come now from the inside because I've thrown it out here sooner. It's now going to come in shallow, and then the face hits more square. So now we're going to have a shallow draw rather than a steep cut, right? So you can see how like going for forward shaft lane is this downward spiral of bad things that happen. And then what happens is when we try to like solve it and save it and like then we're shutting the face, shutting the grip, supinating and pronating, and we're trying to do all this stuff at, whatever our club head speed is. So if you tee up, the goal would be to get 5 tees. I've got little tubs here. Set them up pretty high. Like these are our medium-sized tees, but they're teed up pretty high. So your goal is to not try to hit it hard, but just kind of go back. You could hear that, right? I'm not trying to hit it up or down. I'm just trying to go level. That was the top half of the ball, barely above the top. You heard that difference. That was center. That was on the top. So when you tee up, what it's going to do is it's going to require you to actually enhance your skill, right? I messed up 2 or 3 of the 5. You're going to mess up 2 or 3 of the 5, but the more you do this, the more you're going to start realizing, oh, if I actually just release that club at the right time, I'm going to get that. We know audio tells us a lot about the strike. If I take my hands and clap across, there's no audio there. If I get this, especially if I create a little air pocket, that's compression, right? So, yeah, 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 it's just the elasticity of the tool, of the object, right? So what you've done is you've just taken this rubber material, squished it in, it explodes back out, and it goes further. Exactly, the transfer of energy. Yep. Yeah. So the great news is all of our equipment from our clubs to our golf balls these days are perfectly designed to go really far and straight. What we do is we get in the way and we mess all that up. Right? So we're going to do this in in little steps. You're going to tee up. And is everybody here right-handed? Would right hand be your dominant hand? Yep. Okay. So if right hand's your dominant hand, the first exercise you're going to do is you're going to tee up 5 balls, and then you're going to take your regular grip, and then you're going to take your left hand off, and you're going to stick it in your pocket, and then very, very easy, very gently, you're going to try to get the club to give a nice sound off the middle of the face. Same thing there. Then maybe do 2 sets of 5 or 10, and then you're going to put 2 hands. And the reason why I want that right hand doing it is because when you have one hand on the club, you're going to release that angle at a more appropriate time, and then that acceleration is going to create the speed that you need. This left hand, a lot of times, especially the glove hand, it clamps down so tight that a lot of times it comes in here. So there's like an arm wrestling match going on, right? So come on over here. You're my biggest strongest student, right? So put this club in your right hand, okay? Put it down here. Good. Now you're about to take the club back, and then you're going to release it like this, right? Except I'm going to hold this end, right? So take the club back. Now as you come through, I'm going to pull this end this way. And you can't go that way because I wouldn't even need a whole lot. Just a couple fingers going this way, and then he can't release that club. All right, good job. um, yeah. Yeah, right. So, right. So when you're accelerating the club through here, basically what's trying to happen, like gravity is an aligning force. Like when we plumb bob, we just let it hang. If this is now in alignment, basically back here at address, if I pull it up and then I just release this angle and let my arm swing through, I can't really mess up this too much, right? I can lag it too long. The release would be late. I could like flip it a little bit too much and the release would be early. Most of the time, I've never seen anybody early. Everybody thinks that like scooping it and doing this is such a bad thing in golf, but I can tell you I've seen that about 0.01% of the time. What I've seen way more than that, more like 80% of the time, is people trying to lag and pull the handle and not actually accelerating the club enough. So any other good questions on that? Right? It's pretty simple. So the idea is let's use that dominant hand, let's release the energy, get some compression on one-handed, then go to two-handed, and then basically all we have to do is take the tee height and lower it back down to the grass. And everybody's got perfectly designed golf clubs here to that you don't need to dig underneath the ground. Even my club has this big weight here in the back. That's perfectly aligned to the front where I'm going to hit the ball. So the engineering has taken care of us trying to have to hit down, take divots. I think Tom Watson was one of the best compressors of the ball of all time, and he also never really took divots. Yeah, Tiger, when he was done, I watched him. I played against Tiger in college, but I went and watched him at like the Super Skins game. See that little patch of divots over there? That's about the size, but that's about twice as deep of the ones that Tiger took. When he would take divots, he wouldn't actually remove any of the roots of the grass. The leaf would get shaved off the top, and you would see these little white stems in the ground. So he wouldn't even take a divot deep enough to pull. Yeah, basically. Yeah. So, all right. Cool. I like a 9 iron for starting. Yep.